people in the community are probably settled on benefits. And then, just from my experience as a manager of people with disabilities, quite often coming off benefits and coming into employment is where the barrier is, because when they're able to work 15 hours or 24 hours, depending on what benefits they're on, they're reluctant to come off those benefits. The support that they really require to come off, to transition from benefits to employment, like they would lose their housing benefit, things like that. So there's a big barrier there. Yeah, I think there's a lot more mental health issues with people in Northern Ireland, I would say. From my own perspective, whenever I came off, I was obviously get assessed. I came off ASA and onto job seekers. There really was nothing until I came to Usel of support. So I had to obviously go on the steps to work at that time, and then the support was given then. But there's no support whenever you actually come off ASA to go on to job seekers. They just go get a job. That's quite traumatic, especially you've had a long-term health condition and they just go get a job. You know, unless you're prepared, it's so traumatic. And then that's where having somewhere like Usel, whenever to go on this program, is a help. Obviously, I was on ESA. I had to, doing courses to prepare to come back to work. I was assessed that I no longer qualified for ESA and was looking for work. Went to a job centre. I had wanted to do web design, and they had said there's a course in Canberra Street. That was first introduction to Usel and web design course. And fortunately then the placement was with Usel, because we used to do online sales for satchels, and the person who was doing that handed in their notice, needed somebody to replace. But it was supposed to be a 13-week course, then 13 weeks on placement. I did it in about 6 weeks. Then the guy who was doing, I was working along with the guy. I was doing the placement for about 2 weeks and he handed in his notice, so. I didn't know nothing about USAID, never heard of it before. It was only when the offer of doing the course in web design came up. So again, probably that has been our problem, is getting information out to people. I think the job centres could do more to point people to us. You hear about disability action, it just seems to be pushed more, probably because the name is disability, and I think that there too is could be Usel's problem, is putting disabled in there somewhere. It is really difficult. Like when I have a customer for bags, you have to go through the whole thing of what Usel is. It's a story in itself. You're 5 minutes in telling people what we actually do. So it is difficult. I remember when we were doing the website for satchels, we hired people to write the narrative and they couldn't do it. Because I originally worked in Tesco's and then I took ill and wasn't able to work, and so I was obviously applied for similar jobs, and then I went, that's not what I'm able to do. And physically I still have health conditions that I had then, but obviously you have to work, so office work was what I was after. And obviously my qualifications then weren't the same qualifications that was required to do office work. So I did computer course, and then I wanted to do web design. Again, taking it from my own perspective, I've got fibromyalgia. Nobody sees that, so nobody knows how on a day that you're feeling, and people don't necessarily always believe that there's something wrong with you. You look perfectly fine, and but also once you say you've got a disability, the offers of jobs don't come. People don't want that barrier that there is. People are going to be off sick. Like I worked for Tesco's for 10 years. When I reapplied, Nothing. Nothing changed with me other than having a health condition. Even us employing, when I first started here, we had probably 6 or 7 blind people. When people came in, they were astonished at what those guys could do. We had one guy who was stapled to van bases. Like it was just, he was fastest guy at making them. When he left, nobody could do them at the same speed he was doing them. People just, I couldn't believe how much they could do. I think we all have a negative thing of somebody with a disability. You go, they're not going to be able to do. But the good thing, I suppose when I first started here, was we don't look for the disability, we look for the ability. And again, that's in the name of the cafes, the ability cafes. We're looking at abilities, not disabilities. You know, the people, yes, they've got barriers, but it's not going to stop them being a good employee. Some of the attendance of the disabled people is probably better than people without disabilities. So it just needs the managers in the businesses to think out of the box a wee bit of just a different way of doing it. They'll do it just to get the job done, but might have to do it a different way. I just think that if people just had a wee bit more compassion for people with disabilities and took them for who they are rather than for their disability, don't be looking at the disability. And I suppose too, people with disabilities need to not necessarily pigeonhole themselves. You know, if somebody's labelled with a disability, don't become the disability. Rise above it and be the ability that you can work to your strengths, not your weaknesses.